Hashanah Tovah. Simone Biles is one of my heroes. She did something that many of us are not brave enough to do. At the pinnacle of her gymnastic career, when every sports journalist and media outlet was calling her the GOAT, the greatest of all time, she admitted to the world that she had daily mental health struggles. She stood in front of her teammates, her coaches, competitors, judges, and hundreds of cameras pointing directly at her and shared that she had what was later explained to be the twisties. The sense that when in the air, she did not know the difference between up and down or right and left. What an incredibly scary feeling it must be for her to fling herself so high in the air and have no way of knowing whether she will be able to land safely, let alone sticking the landing. And at great risk to herself financially and facing the equal, if not greater stress of the type of media attention fellow Olympians and tennis Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka talked of openly just a few weeks prior, she stepped back from the edge and decided it was right for her to care for herself and for those around her. A few days later, Michael Phelps spoke on air and said, "It is okay to not be okay. We are here in this together." The reaction to her decision was swift and extreme from athletes, from journalists, and armchair quarterbacks. Some denigrated her and others supported her. And with the explosion of coverage on both traditional and social media, it might have been easier for her just to compete. Not really. In truth, I'm in awe of her poise, control, and her ability to seemingly ignore the intense spotlight and do what she needed to do for herself, which included cheering on her teammates and friends as they competed. Her personal transformation on the world stage is teaching so many of us about our own challenges and how we might react when faced by not only difficulty, but also intense scrutiny and judgment. We are standing here today at the pinnacle of the year. The athletes in Tokyo were training and preparing when their world shut down last year. When their worlds opened up, they needed to shift gears, change training routines, and stay at it until they qualified and competed in the Olympics. Many of us have no idea what that meant to the athletes and the challenges they faced physically, mentally, and emotionally along the way. However, we all do know the challenges we have faced over this last year and a half. How many of us have experienced something like the twisties? How many of us went more than a year without seeing family and friends? How many of us completely revamped our lives, our work life, our home life, and even our social lives? As one person told me after her husband passed away, it had been so hard to be in the house 24/7 with him, I thought I might kill him. But I am missing him so much because we were together for so many years. What did it mean for teachers and students to teach and learn online? Or those who were so used to going to workplace every day, and now they were working exclusively from home. Or those who had no clue about video conferencing, and suddenly they had to become experts. I know for me, there were times over this last year and a half when I was not always sure what was up or what was down, and I'm exhausted. So much so that deciding what to eat for dinner on a daily basis is a challenge. You might think that's pretty easy, but I've also been on a quest to reach a certain weight, to eat a healthy variety and not the same old, and to accommodate the tastes of the others who are living in our home. And even though now Sharon and I are the only ones home, we have different tastes and needs for food. I long for the time when we worked at summer camp. We would show up for meals, eat, enjoy, clean up, and that's it. The hardest food-related decision we made at camp was what to eat from the salad bar that night. Decision fatigue causes the quality of our decision-making to decline and leads us to make poor decisions. And when we reach mental exhaustion, we search for shortcuts. Or perhaps we procrastinate and stop doing the things we want to do because we're just so overwhelmed. So many of us have reached decision fatigue after more than a year of living under pandemic mandates and stressing about making the right decisions for ourselves and for those around us. Many people report feeling foggy, unsure of what day it is, unable to make simple choices even. Louise Evans, a behavioral coach, teaches about being conscious of our behaviors, especially in challenging times. Take a look at these 5 chairs. She talks about these 5 chairs like these chairs are sitting here today. She calls these 5 chairs a behavior compass, and with each chair representing a different reaction to an event, problem, or person. Her belief is that we must sharpen our perception of our behaviors at each moment and cultivate our ability to change chairs, to move from negative reactions or behavior to more productive ones. We must consciously move from one chair to another. Sounds intriguing, right? Let me explain how this works. This is the first chair. This first chair is the red chair, which is associated with judgment. All of us judge. And in the last couple of minutes, you have consciously or unconsciously made judgments. You've judged me. You've judged others in this Makom Kadosh, this holy place. Their clothes, you have judged their clothes, their inattention, the way they quiet their children. You have likely judged whether the chair you are sitting on is comfortable enough to listen to a longer than usual sermon. Judgment is natural. And Evans connects judgment with the jackal, a clever animal, one that is always on the lookout to make an attack or to exploit a weakness. This red chair and the symbol of the jackal symbolize the worst parts of judgment. We want to blame, we want to complain, and even punish. I'm fully vaccinated. Why do I still have to wear a mask? Why do people insist on not being vaccinated? And why does each side think only they hold the truth? We judge others' actions, even when we don't fully know the fullness of their actions or their motivations. This judging is unproductive. It creates more animosity and leaves little room to love others. The Yamim Noraim remind us that we must spend our time persuading God to move from the throne of judgment to the throne of mercy, with the anticipation that God will grant us mercy, forgiveness, and love. We must move as well. The yellow chair. The yellow chair represents self-doubt. In her TED Talk, Evans associates it with the hedgehog. When threatened, a hedgehog will roll itself into a tight ball, causing the quills on its back outward. They are incredibly sharp and will effectively protect themselves against predators. Like the hedgehog, we desire to protect ourselves. We play the victim and feel like a failure. We judge ourselves mercilessly. Not even the tightest spiral can protect us from our harshest critics, ourselves. And as we sit in this chair, we begin to realize that we are all rolled up and must begin to unroll ourselves by limiting our own self-doubt. Personally, I can tell you that I have doubted myself many times over the last almost 2 years. Was the proposal about what to do for the holidays the right one for our community or wrong? What happens when I am wrong? Many late nights I have thought to myself, could my decision lead to illness for someone who is here? The self-doubt can go even deeper than that. What's my liability? If I cause someone's illness, will they bring a lawsuit against the synagogue and me? How will that affect our work as a congregation? How does that affect my family? You can see the dark spiral. Even I, someone who has been doing this for many years, may spiral down because of self-doubt. I learned from my teacher, Rabbi Shilla Peltz Weinberg, that in this mode, we should step back and in a mindful manner, observe our thoughts and allow those thoughts to pass without judgment. The third chair is the green chair. And the animal associated with this chair is like the meerkat, vigilant in nature, often sitting and watching. It can hold the same position for an hour or more, observing their surroundings. And as human beings, we are continually reflecting on ourselves, our actions, and what others think. We naturally question everything around us. The green chair helps us move beyond the judgmental phase and into a place where we are simply curious about what is around us. When we are open and curious about what is happening, our attitudes and actions become more positive. As the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche wrote, "You have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, the only way, it does not exist." Openness is precisely the mindset of a meerkat and precisely the right mindset for us to try to understand the world, especially when we only see a small portion of it. Is the blue chair, the dolphin. Dolphins use echolocation or clicks to detect things in water. These short, broad spectrum burst pulses reflect off objects of interest like food and friends and predators. The dolphin's skill and detection are crucial to its survival. If the meerkat endlessly questions, deferring action to another time, the dolphin has the answers. The dolphin sees, or rather hears, what it needs or wants, and moves confidently toward or away from the situation as the situation demands. When we occupy the blue chair, we know who we are and what we want, and what we are not afraid to be confident of and say it. As Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Louise Evans teaches that this knowledge makes us assertive but not aggressive, like the jackal. We become confident in our ability and knowledge and humble in our actions. And finally, the purple chair. The purple chair, which Evans associates with the giraffe. The giraffe, which has the longest neck of all land animals and also has the biggest heart. These traits are a perfect symbol of brilliant vision, as well as empathy and compassion. With such a long neck, the giraffe can see more of the world around it, and with such a large heart, it can love all that more. The giraffe is quiet and unassuming. And with our vision and compassion, we are confident in ourselves, and we can drop our egos and listen fully to others. We might show empathy, putting ourselves in another's shoes. In the purple chair, we drop the judgmental views. We become not simply tolerant, but actively appreciative of the diversity that surrounds us. And we turn our attention to asking, what is it we can do for another? And what do they want? What will help them? So here are the 5 chairs that Louise Evans presented in her TED Talk. When she was done, she quoted Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist, philosopher, and Holocaust survivor, who wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." To me, these 5 chairs represent different aspects of Teshuvah, of repentance. Maimonides taught that Teshuvah is completed in stages: admitting our wrong, making amends, committed to never committing the sin again, and finally, never doing that sin again. Completing teshuvah is never that straightforward, and it takes attention to detail. Like the system of chairs I just described, we have to mindfully go from one to another, eventually, hopefully making it to that purple chair. The mystical commentators speak about spending our lives going through various gates to reach our goal, a closer connection with God, which also means becoming intimately aware of what is in our own souls. Teshuvah is like a winding hiking trail through the forest. We don't always see what's around the next corner or even the end of the trail. But if we follow the trail markings, the mitzvot, the acts of loving kindness with an open heart and mind, we will reach that place of wholeness that we are seeking on this new year. Teshuvah is an act of moving from chair to chair in a way that brings us equilibrium. We may not always stick the landing, and we may even take ourselves out of the game for a bit, because teshuvah is not always easy. We may find ourselves not always knowing which way is up or which way is down. Sometimes the path itself presents us with the twisties. And while we can acknowledge that sometimes the world may be curving away from us, and that we may need to take a deep breath and another type of reset like Simone Biles, we know that the balance beam that is life will be waiting for us. Rosh Hashanah gives us a reset, allowing us to get back on track. And if we don't stick the landing every time, if our efforts don't garner the goal, showing up and knowing when to put ourselves, our families, and our physical and mental health first should be enough. As this new year begins, may we give ourselves permission to recognize when we can do more, when we can do more, and when we must do less. May we judge others favorably, and may we take one another's hands as the road curves. Hein Yehi Ratzon, and may it be God's will.